Hey guys, I'm gonna try to make this real quick. I know that most of you are probably hiding in your cubicle at work somewhere. You're not supposed to be watching this, or if you are, you're supposed to be doing something else. So, but I wanted to make another video for your news letter this month, just because I just felt like that I couldn't express just how really cool this was, what happened through just the normal writing it down on a web page. So I wanted you to be able to hear me say it and talk about how just really cool I thought it was, and just some answer to prayer. Anyway, you know, a lot of you guys have really, you know, just been awesome as far as your support for Gospel Organic, and we're just very, very thankful for that, Allison and I, and just the people that you've affected by that. But as most of you know, Allison and I figured out the other day that, you know, we were pregnant again. And that was a complete surprise to Allison and I. And with that said, it really hit us hard. It's an awesome thing, and we know that the Lord's going to provide and take care of that, but we really were not expecting it. And from a financial standpoint, most of you guys know that Gospel Organic is, financially speaking, a joke. And so we really were wondering what we were going to do. And we're really asking the Lord to just be very clear about what we need to do with the future of Gospel Organic, if I even need to continue to do it. Just because, as again, we were talking about, you know, or as I was saying rather, was just financially, you know, the numbers don't add up. And I was up at the square, and we had just been praying hard, just that the Lord will be clear as to what needs to be done with Gospel Organic. And I was actually talking to a lady that I've mentioned on here a few times, you know, and I've never said her name, but that's been a really good thing in the sense that she's really been affected by Gospel Organic, and the Lord's used it to work in her life. And I was talking to her at the coffee shop and just explaining what was going on, and just asking her to just be in prayer for us, that, you know, if I need to continue with Gospel Organic, if I need to quit Gospel Organic and start a new job, and just a regular old school job again, and you know, unfortunately, you know, drop out of school, you know, and just go the other route to try to take care of our family, and see what we need to do with that. And in the middle of that conversation, a guy walks in the door who has no clue of what's going on at all for Gospel Organic or for Allison and I. And so as I'm having the conversation with that lady, he walks in the door, and he walks right up to me and says, "Excuse me, I don't, you know, want to interrupt your conversation, but here I have something for you." And he hands me 6 checks, all made out to Gospel Organic, for, you know, July, August, September, October, you know, thrown out through 6 months. And I just, you know, of course, didn't know what to say. I looked at him, and, you know, obviously was thankful and all of that, and but, you know, just the deeper meaning of what was going on inside, I was just, what's going on here? You know, why would he just do that out of nowhere? And he walked off, so he left. And I looked at the lady I was talking to, and she just kind of looked at me, and I thought, is God trying to show me that, you know, we've been praying that God would be clear if we need to keep doing this or not? Am I being an idiot? Or, you know, and she was like, "You're being an idiot. God's making it clear." And so I was like, well, you know, maybe so. That's awesome. You know, and we just kind of sat and talked about it. Well, then I was taking, as you guys know, Ken from last month, and who we talk about in here, the guy that we take to and from work every day, and you know, work with, who's become a friend. I just was on my way back from Villa Rica taking him to his job, and I got a text message this same day, and a guy asked me if I was at the coffee shop. I said, you know, I'll text you when I get there. So I got back to the coffee shop, and I'd been there, you know, a few minutes, and he comes walking up to me, and he holds his hand up like this, you know, to give me 5, and says, "Hey, what's going on, man?" And I just kind of sat there, and he said, "Here, give me 5." And I finally put my hand up, and he did it, and I looked down, and he had a $100 bill in my hand. And I just, again, I was like, what's going on here? What, you know, we're asking that God be clear about this, and is this really God? You know, I didn't say any of this to him. You know, I just told him I was thankful and we appreciated all that, and he walked off and left. Well, the next day I saw the woman that I had previously that I was talking to when the first gentleman walked up and gave me those 6 checks. So I was talking to her about what was going on. I said, you won't believe this. A guy came up, just a few hours after that happened and put a $100 bill in my hand and said, here, this is for your ministry and blah, 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 and all that. And she just was blown away. And she was just like, I think the Lord's being clear. And I was like, well, maybe he, I don't know. And, you know how you feel when those situations are going on. Well, right in the middle of that conversation, I was sitting there sharing that with her, what had happened just after she had left. And right in the middle of that conversation, one of you guys, one of the supporters walked up, and it was Melissa Bradley. I hope you enjoy watching this. But you walk up, Melissa walks up, and again, she had no clue as to what was going on, had no clue that we were thinking about maybe we need to disband Gospel Organic and stop all that. And she walks up and she says, she didn't hear any of this conversation. She walks up and says, Russ, excuse me, can I have a word with you outside? And so the lady that I was talking to, she just kind of thought maybe something wasn't good, and I did too. And so I walked outside, and she said, hey, Joe and I have ran into some extra work or a little extra income for the next few months or whatever, and we want to start sponsoring your ministry again. And I was just blown away. I was like, what's going on here? And so is God really just, what's happening here? And so I told her, thanks. And again, I say thanks to you, Melissa and Joe. And she walks off and leaves. And she had no clue what was going on. Just all these little incidences that were happening back to back to back to back in the middle of this prayer, just that God will be clear if we need to continue with Gospel Organic. And so she leaves. And I walk in the door and tell Mimi, oh, I just said her name, so if you're watching this, I'm sorry. And anonymity is busted. But so I walk in the door and I just look at her, and she said, no, not somebody else, not something again. And I said, Melissa just asked if she just wanted to start supporting the ministry again. And she just started crying. The lady that I talked to, that I was in the middle of the conversation with, she just started crying. She said, Russ, I feel like God is just being clear for you, and just I don't know why. And I didn't know what to do, so I just sat there with my mouth wide open for a while and didn't know what to do. Well, it doesn't stop there. This is the exclamation point I feel on the end of the sentence of the story. Sunday, the next day or two after that was Sunday. We were doing our little church out in the park, and we were on our blankets, and had the guitar out. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting there, and I noticed that nobody's listening to what I'm saying, and I look behind me, and there's a huge guy walking up. Looks just like the guy from the movie The Blind Side, the main character. Comes walking up, and he's young, maybe in his early 20s or mid 20s, and he's just kind of nervous and jittery. And he says, "Are you guys a church?" And my first thought was, how does he know that we're how did he? But I said, yeah, we're something like that. You're free to join us. Have a seat. And he said, no, I gotta go. I was driving by, and I drove on past, and the Lord spoke to me, and God told me to stop and turn around and come back here. And He told me to stop and get out of my car and to come up here and give you my tithe money for this month. And I just wish I had a camera to, my face just dropped. Everybody around, I had just told everybody what was happening and asking God to be clear if whether we need to do Gospel Organic or not. And everybody's face just dropped. And so he hands us, he pulls out of his pocket and just drops all his tithe money in his hand, and he just says, and I just say, can we pray for you? And I hope I get to see this guy and tell him just everything that was going on, because in my shock, I just didn't say anything. I just asked him if we could pray for him, and we prayed for him, and he just got in his car and he drove off and left. And it's just been, we felt like, okay, we finally surrendered. Okay, God, I guess you're being clear that we need to keep doing this ministry. And all of that, guys, remember, happened just in a period of a few days, and just with the prayer fresh on our lips that the Lord would be clear if we need to keep going. Guys, I wanted you to hear that. Keep praying for a place and partner on the square. And Clint, never mind. Guys, just thanks for your support.